Hi, my name is Michelle Fondin, and I'm here to talk to you about my new book, Enlightened Medicine, Your Power to Get Well Now, an integrative approach to healing the 7 deadly chronic lifestyle diseases. I'm so excited about this new book. This new book actually took me about 2 years to write, and over time, statistics have vastly changed. So I'm going to tell you about one statistic that actually kept me going through the writing process that was arduous and super difficult. I've never written about medicine, the medical field, except for Ayurvedic medicine, which is a little bit different. This was about all medical systems, including Western or allopathic medicine, so I had to do tons of research for this book. I started with the statistic that in 2014, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention had a statistic that 133 million Americans suffered from at least one chronic illness, and that statistic was projected to be 157 million by the year 2020. Here we are in the year 2018, and the Rand Corporation has already elevated that statistic in 2017 to 150 million Americans who suffer from at least one chronic illness, which is a growth rate of over 3% versus the projected 1.5% that the CDC had projected earlier in 2014. So let's discuss that a little bit. It kept me motivated because, as you probably know, there are roughly 330 million Americans in the US. So we're talking about US citizens. The last count was probably around the year 2016. So it's hard to know exactly how many, but if you take a statistic like 330 million, and then you take a statistic of 150 million who suffer from at least one chronic illness, then you're looking at roughly half of all Americans have at least one chronic lifestyle disease. That kept me super motivated in writing this book because the scales are tipping very quickly, and with a growth rate of 3% per year in the way that we don't want it to go. We don't want it to go toward more Americans getting chronic illnesses. We want to reverse this trend. If we don't think about things thoroughly, the trend will never reverse. It's just going to get worse and worse. And our current healthcare system is not helping. It's hindering the process. So I wrote this book about integrative medicine, about marrying the system of allopathic or Western medicine with alternative forms of therapy. So we're looking at complementary and alternative healthcare, but looking for real, hard solutions to this really crazy and difficult epidemic that we're faced with. So you might be left thinking, like, what is a chronic lifestyle illness? I'm not really sure what that entails. What is it? So I'm sure you've heard that diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, is a rising epidemic in and of itself. 5% of all diabetics in the US have type 1 diabetes. That means 95% of all diabetics in the US are type 2 diabetic. Type 2 diabetes is a direct lifestyle illness or chronic lifestyle illness. So what does chronic lifestyle illness mean? Chronic lifestyle illness means that it is progressive, it is ongoing, and that it inhibits the way of natural life. So that means it interrupts your living in some form or another. It could be either economically, it could be for your daily living, it could be in your work, it could be in your family, it could be in any of those things, and that you have to have repeated visits to your doctor because of a specific disease. So we're talking about type 2 diabetes, hypertension or high blood pressure. We're talking about heart disease and stroke and obesity and anxiety and depression and addiction. So those are just a few to name that are chronic lifestyle diseases. Now, the chronic part, I know you understand now, but what is lifestyle? Lifestyle means that whatever you are doing directly impacts how you develop this disease. So it could be what you're doing and it could be what you're omitting to do. And that is the development of the chronic lifestyle disease. Well, it's bad news, of course, but it's also good news. And the good news is that you can have a direct impact on reversing the chronic lifestyle disease. So that is the good news. Now, the bad news is our current model of allopathic medicine. When I refer to allopathic, I mean like Western medicine, modern medicine, allopathic medicine. It all means the same thing. It is our Western model of medicine that we in the US practice, in Canada, in most of the Western countries now practice Western medicine or a form of Western medicine. And what does that compare to? That is compared to alternative forms of healthcare that were practiced in the past or that were practiced in concert with allopathic medicine in certain countries. Now, in the book, I talk about the history of medicine and how other alternative forms of medicine or ancient medical practices, how they got pushed aside. I do talk extensively about that, but we're talking about things like Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, acupuncture, chiropractic, homeopathy, herbal medicine, all types of energy healing. So we're talking about complementary forms of medicine that help the body to heal on a cellular level versus just giving a prescription, giving surgery, something that Western medicine is going to do to try to get the person back to health. In chronic lifestyle illnesses, it doesn't work. That simply appeases the symptoms, but most often the side effects from the pills that you take to appease the symptoms of the chronic lifestyle illness, they cause other symptoms. So then you have to have other prescription pills to appease the symptoms of the secondary and the third and the fourth and the fifth and sixth prescription medications that you take as a result of the first pill you took for the chronic lifestyle disease. So as you can understand, the problem has a ripple effect. And once you have one chronic lifestyle disease, chances are you're going to have two or more. And the reasons is that they do not live in a vacuum. So if you have anxiety, then rest assured that if that anxiety is only treated by pills, that it's going to lead to some form of depression. Well, anxiety in and of itself can cause many physical ailments like Alzheimer's disease. So you think about things like that as they have a ripple effect when you're looking at chronic lifestyle illnesses. So the good news is when you look at integrative health, when you look at embracing the best parts of Western medicine and the best parts of alternative forms of therapies, you can integrate the two systems so they work together in perfect harmony. I'm not saying to refute Western medicine. That would be silly, and frankly, it would be quite stupid at this point because we do have a lot of technological and scientific advances that can really help to pinpoint certain things like tumors with less invasive surgery. It can really help in acute symptoms, in acute cases, in emergencies and accidents, and there are many different ways the therapeutic benefits of Western medicine can and do work. But we're more talking about life on a day-to-day basis when you're really dealing with a chronic lifestyle illness. There are so many other ways that you can reverse the symptoms and reverse the disease, because what we're looking for is to get to the root cause of the disease in order to reverse that disease, because we need to reverse this trend. If you think about it, you're probably thinking like, okay, half of all Americans have at least one chronic illness. What's the big deal? Well, what's the big deal is that chronic lifestyle illnesses cause increased absenteeism at work. It costs us a lot of money in healthcare. It costs your family a lot of money. It costs your family a lot of strife, and they have to take time off work to take care of you or to take you to doctor's appointments. It costs a lot, not only in human lives, it costs in time, money, resources, and it causes a lot of strife to the families. So we're talking about this huge monumental ripple effect that when the balance of the scale tips so that we have way more sick people in this country than people who are well, then who's going to take care of the sick people? If there are more sick people than well people, how are we going to figure this out? So I wrote this book, Enlightened Medicine, Your Power to Get Well Now, to first of all make you aware of the problem, just being cognizant of the problem. That's the whole thing right there, is this awareness. It's when we put blinders on and when we deny that there actually is an epidemic in this country, when we deny that there actually is a problem in this country. When we put on those blinders, no one can solve anything. And when we try to patch it up with these prescription medications, it doesn't do anything for us. It does not reverse the disease. Like I said, it appeases the symptoms, but the disease is still progressive. Look at, for example, the opioid addiction problem that we have in the US, caused largely in part by the pharmaceutical companies who push these drugs on consumers. So we're looking at this from a root cause of the problem and looking at hard and fast solutions that are going to help us to reverse this trend. So to that end, in the second half of the book, I give you all the complementary and alternative forms of medicine that you can look at and explore and talk to your doctor about, and different things that you can do in your body through physical healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing, mental healing, looking at doing alternative therapies yourself to really help yourself get over these chronic lifestyle illnesses. But that's the one thing, and this will be my final word on this book, and there'll be many more videos on this book, I promise you, because I'm really passionate about this topic, is that it needs to come from you and from your willingness to do something about the problem. So if you suffer from a chronic lifestyle illness, you're going to have to take action steps to move toward your better health, and not just by taking a pill and not just by relying on your doctor, because those are not solutions. They're temporary fixes, but they're not solutions. So that means you're gonna have to work a little harder. That means you're gonna have to do a lot more research. It means you're gonna have to move your body and eat healthier foods and eat clean and focus on spiritual health and focus on nature and getting in rhythm with the universe and the nature, and going through your relationship healing and looking at all those aspects of you that help you to get better. So thank you so much for joining me. This is just the beginning of this conversation. Please subscribe to my channel below for future videos on this topic and other health-related topics. Please share this video with friends, family, and your dog. And please support me on Patreon. I don't get paid for these videos. I'd like to do this as a public service to you guys. And so you can support me by pledging on Patreon, www.patreon.com/Michelle S. Fondin. And I will see you in the next video.